We've been here before. We're in Lovell Canyon, and our goal is Griffith Peak by way of Sexton Ridge. And you can see Griffith Peak on the right, Sexton Ridge, part of Sexton Ridge on the left. We're going to start on Lovell Canyon Trail and head up to the end of the trail, Griffith Shadow Trail, and then catch Sexton Ridge. And it's around 6,000 feet elevation gain from where we are right now till we reach the summit of Griffith Peak. So, and who knows, around 10 miles each way. The reason I'm shivering a little is that it is about 40 degrees, and I'm used to summer, and this is really the first really cold day I've experienced. It's been, Las Vegas summers of 110 to 115 degrees, and all of a sudden, here I am in 40 degrees. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're approaching the trailhead, and looks like we got the place to ourselves. There's a little campground here. Lovell Canyon Trailhead. And there in the distance is Wilson Ridge area. In the further distance, more on the left. And we'll learn more about that in time to come, as I plan to traverse the Wilson Ridge. But for now, here is the trailhead for Lovell Canyon. And the goal here, since there is such a huge incline and distance, this is like an ultra. This is more than an ultra marathon, actually, if you think in terms of the elevation gain. So one strategy today is going to be to conserve energy everywhere that I can. And one way to do that is to walk the steeper uphills and then run anything that's level, light incline, and definitely downhill. So we'll see how that works. Here we go. Well, we've risen up close to 400 feet in about 15 minutes. Yeah, about 15 minutes. Reason I like to stop here for a moment is that this is a great view of where we're headed. You can see Harris Mountain, the high point on your right, and there's Harris Mountain, Saddle, Griffith Peak, which is our goal. And I want to average, well, in fact, I need to average if I'm going to do this in an out and back in one day. I need to average about 1,000 feet per hour. And like I said, in about 15 minutes, we've gained 400 feet, but now the trail is going to be going up, down for some time. So overall, 1,000 feet an hour. And we're at about 6,200 feet. Griffith Peak is at 11,060 feet. So that's what we've got ahead of us. And in a bit, the next, I'll point out places on this trail. It's a very good trail, except, watch out for the rocks you could stumble on. And especially if you're running, boy, you fall in one of these things and you're going to bang yourself up pretty bad. Anyway, otherwise, it's a very good trail, and there are only a few rocky spots which is good and bad. It's good in that you don't have to deal with these rocks a lot. It's bad in that you get lulled into a false sense of security during the smooth parts of the trail, and all of a sudden you hit something like this. So anyway, yeah, I'll point out the any kind of trail junction. There will be a couple that come ahead of us, and then this trail is going to give out, and then I'll point out how to find Sexton Ridge, because it'll be wilderness with no trails from the point this trail ends to the summit of Griffith Peak, which I think the trail ends around 7,600 feet, and so everything beyond that up to 11,060 feet is no trails, but a beautiful ridge with an awesome view. And just looking around, it is going to be an incredible view day. And we're looking back toward Potosi Mountain area. That's not Potosi Mountain you see right there, but anyway, it's in that direction beyond those hills. And this is a very beautiful canyon. Lovell Canyon is just simply beautiful. Okay, onward. Okay, first fork in the road here. You can continue to the right, head down to Lovell Canyon and Schaefer Spring Loop. And those great loops. Or you can take a left, which we're going to do today, and head up to Handy Peak Loop, and then Griffith Shadow Loop will appear in 1.3 miles, and we've gone 1.6 miles so far. There's the Lovell Canyon Trail marker. So, and we've gained only around 400 feet. So we've got a ways to go. It's been about 40 minutes, and you won't see the great elevation gains until we hit the end of the Griffith Shadow Loop trail. We hit the summit of it, and then head over to Sexton Ridge. That's when we really make up for the 1,000 feet an hour, which is our goal. And yeah, we're conserving energy by walking the steeper uphills, and yet we want to maximize speed also, because we've got a lot of ground to cover and a lot of elevation. So we'll see how that goes. It is the third Sunday in September. So it's the fall. I'm not shivering anymore, definitely. That last 1.6 miles, actually 2.6 miles, because it took me about a mile to get from where I parked to the Lovell Canyon Trailhead. So that really warmed me up, and now I'm in the sun. So I'm definitely, I always dress to be a little cold in the beginning, because dressing too much actually causes you to sweat and to lose energy. So if I'm a little cold in the beginning, it's about right, because within the first mile or two, I'm usually very warm. I've got a tank top and and runner's shorts, and so and I'm feeling just great. It's probably still in the 40-degree area, but I've really heated up. Okay, here we go. Okay, we are at the next intersection, which is where Griffith Shadow Loop breaks off and heads left, and Handy Peak and Schaefer Loop head to the right. So here's the sign, and this direction is Griffith Shadow Loop, and this direction is Handy Peak Loop. There's Lovell Canyon, and you can see the Harris Peak, and then over in this direction is Griffith Peak, our destination. And that ridge to the left of Griffith Peak is the Sexton Ridge, which we will be ascending shortly. And then over in this direction is Handy Peak. And again, here's the trail for Handy Peak Loop. And then over in this direction, you can begin to see, I believe that's Potosi Mountain, not sure. We'll know when we rise up a little higher, but I'm thinking it is. And then here's the trail we just ascended. And so, onward now toward the summit of Griffith Shadow Loop, which should be about 7,000 feet. And then we break off and head up Sexton Ridge. By the way, as far as water, I've got about 4.5 liters of liquid with me today. 1 liter is Gatorade. And as far as people, I haven't seen anyone yet. And so the people count is 0 so far. And I would guess that if I'm going to see anyone, it's not going to be till I hit the summit of Griffith Peak. So if you're into solitude, this is the trail for you. Okay, onward. Okay, we've gone up about 900 feet so far, hour and a half. So we're a little behind on the altitude scale, but believe me, as we get higher, we're going to gain altitude a lot faster. There's Griffith Peak, and then to the left is a great view of Sexton Ridge. This is the ridge we will be ascending. We will reach the ridge line right about this point, and we'll be about 8,500 feet when we hit that. We'll take a right and then just head right along that ridge all the way over to the summit of Griffith Peak. And when we hit that, the ridge line that I mentioned just a moment ago, we've got about 3,000 feet left. We will have ascended half of our ascent. And there you can see the saddle between Griffith and Harris Mountain. There's Harris Mountain, and if you look very closely, a little further down the ridge below Harris Mountain, you can see a faint, looks like a straight line. That's actually an old road that was constructed back in the 30s, and they ended about there because they didn't know where they were going. So the president shut them down. I think it was Roosevelt. And now you're looking at down into Lovell Canyon. And Then right below us is Handy Peak. And as you can see, we've ascended very rapidly to get this much above Handy Peak. We were just there just a moment ago. And then you see the ridge line of the Wilson Ridge. And then, yes, that saddle in the distance there is Potosi Mountain. And if you look at on Las Vegas area trails, the Potosi Mountain southern approach page, you can see where we navigated up to that left peak, descended the saddle, and then up to the second peak on the right, which is the true summit, about 8,500. Okay, and continuing to look around. Thanks to my experience in Wild Rose Peak area, we can now define what we're looking at here as a pygmy forest. And then up on the ridge up there, we should be seeing the first bristlecone pines, definitely in this area. Okay, well, let's continue. Okay, we are looking at Sexton Ridge now and the approach. So we're still on the Griffith Shadow Loop trail here, and it's going to circle around, and you see where there is looks like a little saddle between the summit of the Griffith Shadow Loop trail and the approaches to Sexton Ridge. We're going to head through a little channel in the brush that'll take us down to this little wash right about in the area that you see here. And then what we're going to do, we have ascended there. You see there's a ridge on an approach ridge on the right and on the left. We've used the one on the right before a couple times, and we're going to take the one on the left today, and that's going to take us up to this area, which is the summit of, at least it's the ridge line for Sexton Ridge. So we'll go ahead and approach that ridge line, and by taking the approach ridge on the left of that wash down below. And then we summit Sexton Ridge and we head on over to Griffith Peak. And it's been 2 hours and we've only ascended 1,000 feet, but there's been a lot of up and down. Believe me, once we start ascending up this approach ridge, we're going to be ascending hopefully more than 1,000 feet an hour, make up for the lost time. Okay, here we go. Well, the trail gets a little sketchy here, but we came from this direction, and that is actually a trail there through those bushes. And the trail actually at this point takes a right and heads down into Lovell Canyon. But what we're going to do is take this left through this passage through the bushes. It actually looks better than the trail. Somebody really worked on this. Anyway, we're going to then get to, there's that wash up ahead between the two approach ridges. And we're going to go ahead and take the approach ridge on the left and head up to the beginning of Sexton Ridge. Get up to the ridge line there. Okay. So about this point, yeah, there's a little passageway through the bushes, but trails are going to begin disappearing, and you basically just need to know that you're taking a ridge up to this point, and then you stay on the Sexton Ridgeline, which is, it's pretty easy navigation. You just have to get through a lot of bushes. Bushes are going to be the biggest barrier. As you can imagine, if somebody hadn't made this passageway between these bushes, there'd be almost no way that you could work your way through bushes like this. Very thick. Okay, here we go. Okay, we just made it through this section of brush and navigating the trail. There are a lot of little false rabbit trails, but they all ended in dead ends. So you head downhill about 150 feet. You're in this wash. Now, this is the wash that's between the two ridges. And what I'm going to do is see if I can ascend up this ridge on the left. And we'll just see where that takes us. We, of course, want to get up into this area and up to this point, and then we'll be able to see the Sexton Ridgeline from that point. And I believe Sexton Ridgeline is actually the one on the left. So we get up to that point and we've made the ridgeline. So hopefully there's a way through the brush up here. I've taken the one on the right. It's a little more circuitous, and yet it's very doable. I don't know about the one on the left, but it looks like a more direct route if it will work. So we'll see. Well, I made an attempt on the ridge to the left here. Totally choked with brush. Lost about 20 minutes in the process. So I'm back in the wash, and the thing is to go to this dry fall up ahead and then take a right and work your way up to the ridge on the right. And so I'll be skirting the base of this little rock wall here, and then much more friendly terrain, less brush. There's a little bit of avalanche slope here to navigate, but not too horribly bad. So here we go. The little rock scramble was very delightful. Loose rock and at a pretty steep angle. And now that I look across the way, maybe I was a little closer to the end of brush than I thought, but I don't know. There is a lot of brush on that ridge. And this ridge on the right, though it circles around a little bit more, there is a kind of trail once you get past the rock scramble I just did, and it heads up this way. and you really don't have a lot of brush not thick brush to navigate. So I think it's faster, even though it's a little bit more circuitous. Okay, so let's take a look around. There's the area where we just traversed the Griffith Shadow Trail. There's that saddle. The reason we took this little route down through the wash down here is because there are very few routes that get you through the brush, and I found this one works, and so I guess I'll just stick to this route. And our next goal is the Sexton Ridge. That's the ridge line right there. It begins. So I'm way off time, but let's continue on, see how far we get. Here we go. Okay, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. Lots of wind up here. But we are on the approach ridge. I'll circle around. You probably hear a whole lot of wind. And there straight ahead is the approach ridge. And then we want to work our way to the Sexton Ridgeline, which is up there. We are, by the way, ascending after slow ascent because of the rolling hills. We're now ascending over 100 feet every 5 minutes, so maybe we'll make up some ascent time. But here you get a grander view of the area. That wash that you see below is the wash that, well, it's not the wash we ascended, it's the wash next to it. And here are the hills below in the foreground that we circled, and that's the summit of Griffith Shadow Loop that then descends into Lovell Canyon, which is down there. You can see in this direction Harris Mountain. And that straight line road that I told you about a little earlier. Much more evident here. And then the ridge line you see in front of you is the Wilson Ridge. On the other side of that ridge is the Rainbow Mountains. The Mount Wilson, Bridge Mountain, Rainbow Mountain. And then you're looking down in this area. Potosi Mountain. Boy, this is going to blow my camera right out of my hands here. I lost a pair of sunglasses. I'd been wearing them on my head, and it was right about this spot, maybe another 200 feet above, that they blew off my head. And I think they just went into space, because I looked around, I could never find them. They're somewhere, who knows. Anyway, lots of wind up here, and it's not going to get less, it's going to get more. Here we go. We are now on Sexton Ridge, and yeah, we've taken nearly 5 hours to ascend, maybe 4.5 hours, and we've ascended about 2,400 feet. So Yeah, way behind. We were going to do 1,000 feet an hour. We would have been on top of Griffith Peak up there by now had we kept that up, but there were a lot of rolling hills below. There's Griffith Peak, our destination, and then here's the ridge that we need to continue to climb. So when we get to that high point up ahead, we'll see what time it is. Maybe we have time to get a little further. That would be really nice. So anyway, you can see around there is Harris Mountain. And I think you can almost see a portion of Fletcher Peak over there. Not sure. Right in that saddle between Griffith and Harris. And we're in the forest. You can see right now we're in a fire break that was created in 2013. And that was created along the top of this hill. See where the trees were cut? And it looks like they were successful in stopping the advance of the fire. You can see everything on this side of the ridge is burnt, pretty much, except for a few patches of green. And so this was the point where they drew the line, and looks like it was successful here at least. We'll find out more when we ascend further. Okay, taking a little rest now. That last 1,500 feet was really a steep challenge. Continuing up Sexton Ridge, we're about the 9,000 foot point, and what you can see from here, as you can tell, it's pretty windy. You can look down into Trout Canyon below. It's getting hazy. I think we're getting some results of some more California fires. Okay, and then we're looking over to the Wilson Ridge, and on the other side of it, some mountains, and I believe those are in the Rainbow Mountains, and this one right in the center is likely Mount Wilson. And then over in this area would be Bridge Mountain. And that's looking across Lovell Canyon. You can hardly see Potosi Mountain. It would be a high point in the center. And that's due to the haze. Here's an idea of Sexton Ridge, what it looks like up here. Continue around this ridge, and I want to at least try to get up to this point, that high point right there, which will be the extent that we reached descent page of Las Vegas area trails. So hopefully if we can get up there, I'm making 2 o'clock my absolute turnaround point because it's going to get dark and it's going to get cold. But if we can get up to that point, then I've got the full Sexton Ridge if you look at both those pages. So we'll see if we can do that. I'm stopping to take a video here because the wind is really roaring, and this is a quiet spot. I think by the time I get to the top of that next mound up there, that it's just going to be gale force wind. So anyway, yeah, here's an example of Sexton Ridge burnout area. That high point up there is the last high point that I reached on Sexton Ridge. So now we are beyond that. And like I said, I'm hoping to meet up with the area, that very spot that I descended to, which will mean that I've got all of Sexton Ridge on video. Although it's not on one video, not on one single adventure. So anyway, continuing on up. And by the way, the turnaround point is just in 1 hour from now, so got to make some good distance in this next hour. We're now we're above 9,000. Need to get up to around 10,000. Here we go. Well, we pretty much closed the gap. All that's left to reach the location I arrived at on the Sexton Ridge descent page of Las Vegas area trails, right up here. That little point, and you can see it's an easy trek down to this point, over here, and then over to where we're standing right now. So yes, Sexton Ridge is totally doable. The toughest part of climbing Sexton Ridge is that one area when I was coming out of the wash and hit all that gravelly steepness, and I want to get back there before it gets dark. We're at a turnaround point, but here's the 360. Perhaps in the spring I'll come and do this again. It's only about a half hour forward to that point I had made on the descent. Let's look around here. There's the Mount Charleston area. And you can see Griffith Peak, the highest point there. Sexton Ridge below Griffith Peak. You can see the tip of Harris Mountain. And the haze is really coming in strong. And that straight line is the road that never got finished during the Depression era. And then looking down in this direction, La Madre Mountain. We'd be able to see a lot more Gas Peak and the Sheep Range, but it's totally socked out in the haze. And through the trees here would be Bridge Mountain, right in the center there. And then over here, through the trees, you can see that cliff, rocky outcrop there. That would be Mount Wilson in the Rainbow Mountains. So that's pretty much it for now. I'm not going on the other side of this ridge. Well, let's go up. But it's going to be really windy. Once you top this ridge, it just becomes gale force wind. Now we're looking down into Trout Canyon. Charleston, Mount Charleston, Griffith Peak, Sexton Ridge. So you can see why I stopped over here, because you get just below the top of that ridge and you get a quiet spot, which is where I am. So that'll be it for today. Maybe this spring of 2022, I'll come back here and push it forward up to that final point there, or maybe all the way up to the summit of Griffith Peak. We don't know. It is a long trek. Ultra. Okay. That concludes it for today. Now it's get back before dark, because I don't want to be on these ridges when the lights go out. Wow. It'd be really tough to navigate, especially that gravelly slope. Okay. Off we go. Okay. Statistics. Total time for today, 10 hours and 45 minutes. Made it to within less than 2,000 feet of Griffith Peak. And saw one person just 1 mile from, less than a mile from the end. No one else the whole day. So it's been an awesome day. And now we're back at the beast and heading back home. What a beautiful day. Griffith Peak by way of Lovell Canyon Trail and Sexton Ridge. And now the loop is pretty much closed. I've made it all the way from the top. I've made it down to about 1,500 feet from the top. And I was within just a couple hundred feet from that point today that I had attained coming down from the top. So there's like a gap of about 200 feet elevation before I totally close the Griffith Peak by way of Sexton Ridge approach. Okay, we're going to call it a day.